What's up, everybody? It's your favorite ginormous Prime's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the premium scale Bumblebee Optimus Prime figure from ThreeZero on loan to me from Robert D. He has some thoughts he wants to pass on about this as well, so I will allow his post-it notes to be read at the end of this review so you can get an idea. Some of that information I will also dispense as we move through, just as fate would have it. But this is a big figure with an awful lot to talk about, so what do you say we just get started, and we'll start with accessories. So he has a number of components that make up the rest of his look. We're going to go through and show you them and then put them on. I will not be having them on when we go through the figure because it's, for the most part, it's just stuff you got to get out of the way anyway to show articulation, and it's just a pain. Plus, it can cause some paint damage. So to protect Robert's stuff, if there's anything I can leave off, I'm going to as we move through the figure. But here are two hip flaps. As you can see, they get a ton of paint treatment with this kind of gray paint, and then the silver on top with the wash. Looks fantastic. They attach right to this ball peg here, and it can be a little challenging because the ball peg is on a hinge, but you want to try your best. Get it. Ooh. Okay, that just snaps back on. Man, we are off to a rough start, aren't we, Robert? Hang tight, Robert. We're going to get through it together, buddy. But there that is. Same for the other side. Just as a quick thing, though, you do want it so that the notch faces forward when you put it on. You get these two canisters, painted silver with the silver look, and all of that gives you that, with the with the wash on top, gives you a nice worn look. They peg into his knees here on both sides. What good is a Prime without his butt flaps, really? Not good at all, I say. Once again, we have the gray paint, some silver paint on top with the sort of wash and a bit of kind of blot painting to give you that worn look. When you go to connect it, you should connect it so that the bump out faces the upper part or the inner part of the back. Upper and inner, to be fair. It's a long ball peg there, so use a bit of caution. Do the same for both sides. And lastly, you have the shoulder pads. They have a clip right there. It goes into there and grabs a hold of a rod. Now, once these are on, it doesn't really affect the articulation because they do... Oh, that's not even in there, is it? Hold on one second. Let me get that right. When the whole shoulder pad hinges up, this piece will come along with it and even has an additional give to it. So it will get out of the way for the shoulder. You know, just so you can see, so you know I'm not cheating you. No problem. And when you've done all that, then you have the completed look of Prime in his Earth mode. There's also a Cybertronian mode, which we will look at here in just a second. But before we did, I want to show you the Earth mode. And also during the final thoughts, I'll give you, what do you want to do? Let's do Earth mode negative, and we'll do Cybertronian mode positive. And the reason why I say that is because we can't get our stuff together on Earth, so we'll make it just all match. Hopefully they're doing better on Cybertron. So we'll have those two looks both now and then at the end. So, entering Cybertronian mode, we'll start with the front bit, the windshield bit here. As you can see, it's got a couple of hooks there, and it's got these pegs, and I think these are magnets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have to get those pegs. Let me see if I can figure out where that goes. So I figured out where it went. It goes on the back of the windshield here. It's just some weak glue, which is a problem with this figure throughout that we will come back and address later, but not until the final thoughts. Then to put the new one on, you have these two kind of hooks. Hook them around, like up and over, and then bring this down. And I'm a little shy. Because I really don't want to break this thing. There we go. He has alternate shoulder pads that include 2 pieces, the kind of smokestack piece that's less like a smokestack now, more like a blaster almost. Beautiful like chrome type paint on it, looks fantastic, and the white paint looks great over top as well. Same deco as the other one, which we'll talk about when we get to the review. All right, for the shoulder pad, just remove this piece. It's with 2 tabs that keep it on. Then insert your other shoulder pad. That has to go on first, and then put this shoulder pad back on for it to kind of wrap around. And you're gonna wanna do that on both sides. He also comes with 2 forearm covers. They're with the blue deco style, and they have magnets that you can utilize to kind of sit on this forearm here and cover up some of this stuff a bit. It's interesting. I'm not sure how much it adds really, and I kind of wish it sat a little bit deeper, so to speak, on it, but you know, it doesn't hurt. And he comes with 4 bat symbols to cover up the wheels for Cybertronian mode, all magnetically activated, all painted black and silver with this red stripe around it, which does look good. And they just sit right there, easy. One of the easiest things about this figure, honestly. And there is the Cybertronian mode. So, you know, cool that they offer both. And he comes with a massive blaster. It is painted various shades of metallics. We have some gold, we have some silvers, 2 different shades of silvers. We have a heavy, heavy wash on it, and then some dry brushing over top. You also have a magazine that you can load in. I'm not sure if it makes a difference. Looks like it has to go in one way. Of course, I got it wrong. So it can kind of complete the look. Now, to get him to hold it, he comes with these adapter pieces. He comes with 2 of them so that you can use them on the left or right hands. They have a little ridge on them, and that gets tabbed into the palm. Once you have it on there, then you can take the gun and sort of snap it into place. Now, you can snap it on the handle of the gun first and then tab it in. Oh my God. It's not a good system. It sucks. It does work, but it's far more complicated using too many pieces that it didn't need to use in the first place. It's poorly done. But it will work, and I'll show him holding it and the final thoughts. As for gimmicks, there is a light up feature in the gun and the head. Underneath, it lights up the eyes and I think the crest here. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Robert did try to insert batteries and send it my way. It does not work. We'll talk more about that in the final thoughts. All right, so let's start with the head. This is going to be tough to go through just due to the size of the character, but we are going to do our best, right? That's all we can do. So, paint, beautiful. We have the base blue, and then we have what appears to be airbrush on top of it. It's a metallic blue. We have some silver dry brushing here and there to kind of indicate some weathering, as well as some wear and tear, what have you. We have the eyes that are the lens for the electronics that don't work. And then we have silver paint on the faceplate. There's 2 points of articulation. It feels like it's a ball peg from the head to the neck, and then another from the neck into the chest. As a result, you can get the head down to there, up to there, swivel. But you do find some limitations there, etc., etc. There is a fill-in piece on the back of the neck as well, but it does get caught up on stuff. This is one of the things I kind of, gig ThreeZero on all the time, is like, a lot of times, I'm getting ahead of myself, but a lot of times they don't have the kind of finesse to pull off a lot of their engineering. We'll take a look at the base there of his shoulders, like his collarbone area. Beautiful paint. The red and stuff we'll talk about, the silver, all that we'll talk about, but I want you to see that there's no stone unturned in terms of deco. So let's back out a bit and we'll look at the shoulder. We have what appears to be 2 points in the shoulder. We'll talk about the deco for a second. We have the red base with the weathering on top, as well as the white base with the weathering on top, and then the translucent pieces, the Autobot symbol, some silver accents. All looks fantastic. The 2 pieces are here, one going into the chest and then one in the shoulder itself. The one in the chest is very subtle. It's right in there. You can kind of see it moving around a bit. The one here, as you can see, we're hitting up against the shoulder pad. So luckily, the shoulder pad moves as well and can get up and out of the way a taste for the arm to get out past 90 degrees. So that's nice. As for the detailings down here, we have some silver and gold. You knew it would happen eventually throughout this review, I'm sure. Tons of detail work, tons of paint work with washes, etc. We have a bicep swivel. It does, once again, get jammed up on stuff, namely the shoulder pad here. If I get this, can I get this out of the way? Yes. And then you still don't really get a whole lot outward, unfortunately. Oh, there it is. It's just like, it has like a, maybe a, where they cut it off the sprue or something that it gets stuck up on. See if you can see there, resistance pushes past it. So just something to be mindful of. There's some build issues on this guy. All right, elbow. We have a button here that you're supposed to push down to get clearance because otherwise it beats up against that. It has nothing to do with actually releasing the joint or anything, but there's a piece here that pushes up that you're trying to protect the button kind of from hitting. And with all of that, you get a great elbow bend. Also some pretty interesting engineering to get it to happen. Along with all of the silver, gold, copper with wash and then dry brush wear and tear on top. Deco, once again, no problems whatsoever. The deco's gorgeous. Same down here, all the pulleys and chains and belts and so forth to kind of get his arm moving. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic stuff. The yellow paint looks good on top. Otherwise, same sort of stuff that we've seen. For the wrist, we have a wrist swivel. This piece here has a little bit of give to it, it seems, but it does feel like you're kind of rubbing up against it, to be fair. There's also this moving piece over here that you want to be mindful of. But the wrist do swivel, once again, super tight joint. Fingers are individually articulated. Hinge, primary hinge at the base knuckle, and then a secondary and tertiary hinge. That's for all the fingers. The thumb is on a base ball peg, and then you have a secondary and tertiary hinge. But you, yeah, there you go, there you can move it. You can get everything out of it. We've seen more sophisticated thumb articulation in terms of how they did it in the past, but it does work. All right, moving on to the torso area. Once again, beautiful stuff here. I just wanted to see how easy this was to take off because I'm going to do this a little later, but I'll take a look at it then, I suppose. The red looks great. The weathering on top of it looks great. The translucent looks good because you have the dark metal stuff behind it, so it all works nicely. Then we have a couple even orange accents here on the side with some weathering on top. And then, of course, you have the silver accents that all get the wash treatment. And then on top of that, it gets a brighter silver dry brush here and there to add some weathering effects. There's 2 points of articulation in the torso. One is from the chest into the abdomen. The other is from the abdomen into the pelvis. Using both, pretty significant ab crunch. And look how that all fills out nicely in the back. No gappage. Looks beautiful. Tight joint. You can get even a little bit back, it seems. Maybe I'm wrong about that. You get a teapot, but once again, man, it's there. You can see it better on that side. Pretty tight joint, and I'm not getting a whole lot out of the other side. I get a little bit, but not like I get on this side. And you can see in the abdomen, you get a little bit of work as well. You have a waist swivel, but it tends to beat up against the hip skirts in a natural position. So you have to grab the hip skirts, pull them out on a double hinge, basically. It's a ball peg connected to a hinge, I think, and move them down. You'd have to do it to the side ones, too. I just don't have them on, in order to get it to work. But once you do, you got it. However, you still meet some resistance at a certain point, so it's not the greatest range in the world, which is, once again, a bit unfortunate. All right, I'm going to readjust the camera. We'll take a look at the lower body. Moving on to the legs. Once again, hip skirts, we're going to get this one out of the way. You would get this one out of the way if it was on there. You have a universal joint. Really tight. And I think you can get this further. I'm just not comfortable pushing it But either way, I think that would be more than you would ever really need. And then forward, straight out. No problem there. Backward, to a decent range, more than you would ever need, probably. Thigh swivel. Once again, we have some moving pieces. Beautiful silver paintwork, washes, the kind of what we've come to expect with the deco of this thing. We have the knee. It is double jointed. Great range. Nice work in there too, if you can see all that. Beautiful stuff. Look how that moves all around it to cover down on the joint. You know I love stuff like that. ThreeZero is good at that. Flame Toys is good at that. A few others. Sentinel maybe. And then we have the flute. So, tire deco looks great, by the way. Ankles. We have an ankle tilt down. I love how you can see stuff moving around. An ankle tilt up. A toe hinge up. Not a great range, but it is there. And an ankle rocker. Once again, not a great range, but it is there. And we'll take a quick look at him from the back. There he is. I mean, it's a beautiful figure. You know, but aesthetics is rarely an issue with ThreeZero, to be honest. We'll do some size comparisons, and then I'll get them all dolled up, and we'll do some final thoughts. So, I'll be honest with you. Truthfully, I don't really have anything to give you an idea. But I mean, there it is next to Starling, and I mean, it's massive. You know, it's a statement. It's a statement piece, and he comes up to about, I'd say 20 inches to the top of his antlers. Antenna. I'm an idiot. So I mean, if you're getting this, you know, you should know what you're doing with it display wise. Use it to its advantage, and it should do what you want it to do. But then again, it may not, and that's what brings us to our final thoughts. Final thoughts, we'll start with the negatives. Once again, as a reminder, this is the Earth mode, and then we'll do the Cybertron mode next. Let's start with the negatives. My biggest issues are issues that plague ThreeZero more often than not, and it's joint tolerance. As you saw in the articulation section, sometimes the joints don't move smoothly, sometimes the joints are literally stuck, sometimes the joints get stuck, and oftentimes they're just too tight. It just creates for a user-friendly experience of about 0%. Maybe I'm being a little harsh there, but you get what I mean. In addition to that, the fact that the figure's so big, it gives you an awful lot of leverage with large pieces, so I fear that you could easily cause breakage on this figure in trying to get it to work properly, which is really unacceptable. My second biggest issue is the way they did the gun. The adapter piece to make it peg into the hand, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that was an afterthought because it doesn't work well. It's frustrating, it rarely stays in, it's definitely not stable, and once again, user-friendly, pleasurable experience, about 0%. Now, those are my issues. Robert has a number of issues. So for one, obviously the LED is not working. He's tried multiple batteries and all that. It's not a battery issue. Like, it's not operational. The metal contact actually for the LEDs, for the eyes, just completely snapped off. Also, the top part of the gun, or I'm sorry, the front of the gun, when he got it out of packaging, fell off. There was almost no glue on it, and Robert had to re-glue it. So what we saw in the review was not all ThreeZero's work, it was a little bit of Robert D's work as well. The piece above the foot, this piece down here, also fell off due to no glue, and Robert D glued it. There are places on this figure where it is missing screws, specifically where the fuel tank goes out. So when you pull the fuel tank out, it has a tendency to pull the whole section apart because that part of the leg isn't actually screwed together. The screw on the opposite leg in the same place is stripped, so it couldn't even be removed to kind of measure up so that he could buy a new one. I will tell you that I know for a fact that he filled out a warranty paperwork on this. If you know ThreeZero, they come with like a warranty on them. He filled it out, sent it to him, and also contacted them via email and has yet to hear back from them as the time of this review. That's a lot of negatives. That's enough negatives for me not to recommend it just on the customer service basis alone. But that doesn't mean it's without its merits. Let's talk about them. Positives wise, it kind of does everything you expect ThreeZero to do. The sculpt is outstanding, it's exceptional, it's above par, it's above average, it's all of those things. The paint, exceptional, above par, above average, second to none. The articulation is in there, however, you do find it being a little lackluster in the feet. And just because the way the joints move and some of the way the pieces rub together, you're a little uncomfortable kind of using it to your full advantage. It could have a little bit more articulation in the ankles, it could have a little bit more in the head, at least the the one I'm dealing with, and then a lot of the joints can be smoother to allow for it. The gimmick is cool of being able to change between modes. I'm not sure how much of an aesthetic difference it actually makes at the end of the day. So yeah, man, unfortunately, with this amount of QC issues on the copy that I'm looking at, along with the price, along with the limitations, along with the concerns that I have, I'm not comfortable recommending this to anyone. But it is beautiful. Does that make sense? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.